My name's Adam Manaka and I'm the Financial Controller for Hi-Tech Oils. With our national capacity, we can now service Australian companies nationwide. Of late, we have now expanded into the New Zealand market. Here at Hi-Tech Oils, we receive premium base oils and premium additive packs. Together, with our highly trained staff, we manufacture over 500 premium quality products. Hi-Tech Oils is Australian made and Australian owned.
Winton Motor Raceway, it's a historical racetrack in Australian terms, and why not bring a historical category? It's the Giti Tyres Australian Super Truck Championship Round 2 of the series. Matt Nolte and Lockie Manson with you for the next hour here, and Lockie, can't wait to see these trucks down this tight and twisty bull ring.
Great to have the Super Trucks back at the Titan Technical short version of the Winton Motor Raceway circuit, and they always put on plenty of action when they visit the nation's action track.
Winton's pretty tight circuit, and if you know one mistake and it's all over, especially in the wet.
As Dick Johnson once said, it's like racing around a Hills Hoist clothesline actually. But look, it's pretty tight, but to be honest, I mean, there's places where we get the trucks 2 and 3 wide, so we don't do too bad on it actually.
Great to see some of the names still around in Super Truck racing as we get set for race number 1. You're on board with the number 13 of Barry Butwell. Now we're on the shorter circuit, the traditional circuit, which I think is really going to serve up some great racing here today.
Good to have Barry Butwell carrying one of our onboard cameras aboard the Max Superliner. This is how they will start. Stephen Zammit, second consecutive pole position from the season. Butwell, good performance from him on the technical Winton circuit. Frank Amoroso, the 2014 series champion, returning to the track this weekend. He will line up out of position 3 on the grid ahead of Marcus Prilwitz and our round 1 runner-up Shannon Smith.
So tricky conditions here at Winton Motor Raceway. It's that time of the year, so watch for turn number 1. Greasy conditions, a rolling start, and 6 laps ahead of us as we're underway in race number 1 and a charge down into the first turn.
Barry Butwell, great start from the outside of the front row, gets the jump on Stephen Zammit and his Max Superliner teammate Marcus Prilwitz trying to go to the outside of Frank Amoroso, but it's the veteran Amoroso, who's been racing super trucks for some 3 decades, who slots into position 3.
Yeah, I remember that name very well from growing up. It must be showing my age now, but great to see Frank still out in the field here as through that long sequence of turns, a left-hander, and up to a really hard stop here. We see a lot of dive bomb action in this super truck category.
There's no category, Matt, where track position is more important than this one, just because the trucks take up so much space on the racetrack, but somehow they still find ways to overtake. And big moment for Amoroso. He spins. Prilwitz goes off. Shannon Smith has to take evasive action as well. Frankie just getting a bit too eager there, I think, on the throttle pedal.
And just shows, even with 3 decades of experience, how tricky Winton Motor Raceway can be. Here's the replay, just did it all on his own. Still very wet conditions here, and a mixture of cold tyres and a bit of anticipation, a bit of excitement on the loud pedal.
The number 96 Fate Racing entry's undergone some work in the lead up to this round, and Frank's been happy with the performance. Maybe a bit too much performance there.
Meantime, back into turn number 1, Shannon Smith in the 60 for GLE Racing, the Kenworth, gassing down into the right-hander. So you can see the surface changes around here. You know Winton Motor Raceway as well, probably more than I do these days. The shinier parts of the track is where you don't want to be.
Still recently resurfaced, of course, Winton Motor Raceway, and lots of grip in the dry. In the wet weather conditions, though, still very tricky as we go back on board with our race leader, Barry Butwell. It's been a development process with these Max Superliners since they made their debut in the Super Truck Championship back in 2014, but they're becoming more and more competitive with every round. And the last season or season and a half, Butwell's had the pace to take the fight up to the likes of Stephen Zammit. This is a good battle a bit further back in the pack. You've got Shannon Smith, you've got Robbie Fern, who's behind the wheel of the ex-John Falk Volvo, and then you've got the first of the light trucks in the hands of Craig Yardy involved in that contest as well.
Craig Yardy's got the real trucky look about him as he grabs a gear down the short back straight now. It's probably a bit longer as he gets past on the right-hand side. We caught that as we go back to our leading group, the 5-time Super Truck champion, running back in second place right now, chasing this guy, Barry Butwell, who continues to lead aboard that Mack Superliner.
Butwell, and problems by the looks of it for Frank Amoroso. Looks like he's getting ready to exit the cabin of the number 96 Super Truck.
Hasn't even pulled the air brake yet. It's still rolling, and he is pulling the belts off and is out of this race. What a shame.
What a disappointment. As mentioned, a lot of work went into that truck just to get on the track at Winton this weekend. Beautifully presented as well, but he's off and out of the race as this battle ignites for positions 4, 5 and 6. Fern ahead of Prilwitz. Back then to Craig Yardy, and Prilwitz getting into the side of Robbie Fern up through the top end complex. Yardy wants to have a look down the inside as well as they negotiate their way around turn 5.
They still haven't lost their anger, have they? Just forced the door open, didn't he, on the run up there to the backside of the circuit? Bits and pieces coming from the respective trucks. That's almost Inky Tulloch-like from back in the day, isn't it?
Back in the day when you had guys like Inky Tulloch and Rodney Crick and Bob Middleton all battling at the top end of Super Truck racing. Marcus Prilwitz giving Robbie Fern a big serve, and we saw a bit of bodywork going flying there as well.
Meantime, these two have disappeared. I talk about Barry Botwell and Stephen Zammit. There is direct power steering entry. The Kenworth 401 being shown a clean set of heels here by this guy as we sit high above the roof, right next to the air horns of truck 13. Unlucky for some through this sweeping left-hander.
They had all sorts of technical problems with that truck in the opening round at Wakefield Park. It got so bad that Barry Butwell actually swapped into the second truck for Marcus Prilwitz just to try and bank some championship points, but they've gone away. They've fixed all the dramas, and Butwell is flying at the moment as we have a look at Craig Yardy in the Isuzu. It is what we call one of the light trucks, so they run a less powerful, low capacity motor, but on a wet track surface like the one we've got here at Winton, very capable of taking the fight up to the more powerful machines.
It's an even playing field, no question about it. Oh, it's on again. Down here's the 31. The 31's going to loop around, and Marcus Prilwitz, the Mack Superliner, will start cultivating the grass on the inside at the top of the circuit and puts him right out of contention.
And he'd done all the hard work too. He got himself ahead of Robbie Fern. He was catching up to the back of Shannon Smith. And once again, these low traction conditions catching out a driver. These turbocharged diesel engines, you can imagine, Matt, they produce a lot of low RPM torque. So if you get on the power too hard, too early, out of the slow corner, you find yourself pointing the wrong direction very quickly. This is what it looks like from the bumper cam. Quite literally the bumper cam, because he was giving Shannon Smith a bit of a bump along.
Yeah, it wasn't much, but it was enough. Unfortunately, he unloaded himself to go back to Shannon Smith in the truck that John Bomburley used to race back in the day.
And we're hearing some rumours that John Bomburley and perhaps even his partner might be getting back into this category in the next couple of rounds as well, aboard a couple of different trucks. But Shannon Smith, since purchasing this truck, he's got closer and closer to the front of the field, and he's been one of Stephen Zammit's closest challengers so far in 2018.
Here's Robert Fern, the Volvo prime mover, we just saw for a moment, back on board with Shannon Smith. Clear racetrack ahead. Hasn't been much rainfall during the race, but certainly on the outfields. You don't want to lose control of one of these trucks, because we've seen even with race cars out there, you don't tend to recover from it.
And because the trucks are so heavy and they carry so much momentum when they go off, is this Prilwitz again? It is.
Wow.
This time on the exit of turn number 1. So he's having a bit of a fraught race.
He'll be wanting to see the checkered flag pretty quickly. A race to forget for the 31. There's a bit of bitumen down there he found as we go back to your leader. And a whopping 5 to 8 second lead now. He has disappeared in this one.
That Mack Superliner is really liking these low grip conditions at Winton, that's for sure. And normally you'd expect Stephen Zammit to be up there giving Butwell a bit more of a challenge, but Zammit's had no answer for the number 13 Mack Superliner driver.
So Mack versus Kenworth at the moment, but the Mack has the advantage. And really, look up at the mirrors right now and nothing behind him. He must be thinking he's running a race on his own here.
He's driving away from the field. Raced super trucks back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Barry Butwell. Took a number of years out of the seat, but then in 2014 he and Marcus Prilwitz put together the 2-truck Mack Superliner team, and it's been a work in progress as far as the development goes, but all the hard work that they've done is starting to yield results, and Barry Butwell is about to come through to collect his first race victory of the season through the final 3 corners. The famous Winton S's turns 8, 9 and 10 for this final lap, and Butwell will take the opening race honours here at Winton.
Just got the truck pulled up through the S's there, and will climb the hill under the famous bridge and takes the checkered flag, and will do it by a massive margin in race number 1. It's well over 10 seconds. Back to the 5-time champion. Here he is, Stephen Zammit, aboard the direct power steering entry. A lonely second place, and be a bit of soul searching going on in that team later on.
And the fastest lap of the race for Barry Butwell was well over a second quicker than any other truck on the racetrack, so that gives you an idea of his margin of supremacy. Zammit second ahead of Shannon Smith, and Robbie Fern in 4th, then Yardi Prilwitz after those spins, and Lachlan Fern your top 7. Frank Amoroso, an unfortunate non-finisher.
We've got 2 classes of super trucks. We've got an A class and a B class. The A class are, well, these days basically manualised Ellison automatic transmission, whereas the B class, or in my case, is a Road Ranger non-synchromesh gearbox. So I've got to match road speed to the revs to the gear I want in order to make a gear selection. And a little bit hard, a bit more of a challenge to drive, I think. With the autos, they just shift up, they upshift with their foot flat down on the throttle.
He was a convincing winner in race number 1. He'll start from pole position when we go racing in race number 2 right after this break from Winton Motor Raceway.
The interior has been modified just for our comfort. The original dash has been cut out of it, we just made our own. This gauge here is our main boost pressure. We have 2 other pyros here, they give us our exhaust temperature. There's 2 other pressure gauges here, one is before the manifold and one is after the manifold, so we know what's happening in between the turbos. Pressure gauge to adjust the wastegate on the manifold. There's a bias valve that tells us how much pressure we've got in the back brakes so we can regulate the rear brakes. This is a E7 Mac motor. It's twin turbo, compound turbos. They have a smaller turbo straight off the manifold and the larger one over the other side directly to the exhaust. The fuel pump's been modified. It's a mechanical fuel pump, unlike most of the ones out here are electric. Apart from that, a lot of hard work in keeping the boost hoses together. Tyres are GT tyres. We actually developed these tyres a couple of seasons ago with GT themselves, and they work well, wet or dry, so they're specially just for racing, that's it. Bit tricky out here with this wet weather. It's really slippery track, but everybody's in the same spot, so we'll see how we go today.
Getting set for race number 2 of the GT Tyres Australian Super Truck Championship. Hopefully this guy, will see a bit more of him in this race. Frank Amoroso in the first one. We didn't see much of him DNFing early on, but results from race number 1 set the grid for race number 2.
So Frank Amoroso will be off the back for this one, and he'll be looking to make a strong recovery through the field. Matt, let's have a look at our grid positions for race number 2. Butwell and Zammit on the front row. Shannon Smith and Robbie Fern, row number 2. Then we go back to Yardi Prilwitz, Lachlan Fern, and Amoroso, as mentioned, coming from the rear of the field. Watch for the number 96 Fate Racing entry to come charging on through.
So keep an eye on the 2014 champion from the back of the field, but this is a chance now for Stephen Zammit to take the lead here and hopefully put a bit of a margin on Barry Butwell, who dominated race number 1. It was 11 seconds as we go racing in race number 2. Another 6-lap journey around a drying Winton Motor Raceway.
Still pretty greasy out there at the moment though, Matt, and we could see Amoroso sideways before he even got to turn number 1 as he weaved left and right to try and get some temperature into the tyres. Butwell has taken the early lead once again ahead of Stephen Zammit. Shannon Smith up there into position number 3, and Amoroso there at the back of shot looks like he's already made up at least one position. He's got around the Isuzu light truck of Lachlan Fern.
Inside with Stephen Zammit, sits much lower than we saw with the other in-car, or the in-truck shot I should say, as he wipes the brow, working his way around that gum tree. Has that been heritage listed yet? It should be.
what was it that Dick Johnson said about doing an endurance race around the gum trees?
And the closer, oh no, don't tell me. We're going to have another lose here for the 60. Just holds on to it.
Oh, wow. Full opposite lock for Shannon Smith, and he just about saved that Kenworth as he headed out of turn number 7.
This is the older circuit, the original Winton Motor Raceway. These days we turn left and head down the back section of Winton Motor Raceway, but this 2-kilometre circuit and 10 turns, ideal for super truck racing. Inside once again with the big Kenworth as he comes past this solid crowd in very trying conditions here today in Winton.
And the rain falling once again, you can see there as well, Matt. Still a decent crowd that's turned out at Winton to enjoy some super truck racing, even in these conditions. And normally in the dry, we'd say the truck's attacking the curbs a lot more aggressively than they are, but because it's wet, those ripple strips are an absolute no-go zone.
You'd be a brave person. Even the middle of some of these turns has been really tricky here today. And Butwell not getting away this time from Zammit. So Zammit has got a bit more of an advantage than what we saw in the first race, staying with the number 13.
They've clearly tuned up the number 1 direct power steer in Kenworth to make it a bit more comfortable to drive in these wet weather conditions. Most of these super trucks run semi-automatic gearboxes, so they don't have to worry about engaging or disengaging the clutch, but they still manually select what gear they want. Marcus Prilwitz, however, is running a full manual gearbox, so he has to work a bit harder than some of the others.
So he's getting a full workout in the field back there in this race, as these two put a margin on the third place truck right now, and it's only early stages as Butwell tiptoes his way through the famous S's with some additions on the inside there with those concrete painted aprons there. They're staying well away from that as they come through to complete another lap here in race number 2. It's a 4-round series this year, so great to see the super trucks starting to make a resurgence on the national stage.
Between Wakefield Park and Winton, they will indeed have 4 rounds, so there'll be another round at Winton and then they'll finish up back at Wakefield Park in November to round out their 2018 season. We've seen some blockbuster finishes even in the last couple of years to the Super Truck Championship. That 2014 championship came right down to the wire between Amoroso and Stephen Zammit. Certainly it's been Zammit who's held the ascendancy the last few years. As we take a look back in the pack, and Marcus Prilwitz, who we saw off the road on about 3 occasions, he's going to have another lose. Marcus Prilwitz right in front of Frank Amoroso, who's going to have his own spin as he had to jam on the anchors there to avoid collecting Prilwitz.
How do we not get any damage? Here's the replay. So Prilwitz came in, he gave the truck ahead a bit of a tap, put himself through a 360 and another one, and Amoroso arrives on the scene and goes, oh no, not again, and takes evasive action, using those 3 decades of experience right there.
Good job from Frank Amoroso to avoid colliding with the Prilwitz truck. This is what it looks like from on board with Robbie Fern. Wow, there was definitely contact there between those two. And Frank Amoroso might have actually managed to keep it on the track, I think, just.
Now, normally you'd hit the truck ahead. That would spin, not you. It backfired for Prilwitz, who spun off the circuit and right down the order. Meantime, the front 2 guys are out of here, and Butwell is just starting to put a bit of a margin on the 5-time series champion aboard the big Kenworth. They sold their 60,000th Kenworth last year. Incredible. Wow,
there you go. I'll tell you what, they sell plenty of Kenworth parts to the drivers in the super truck field, that's for sure. On board with Stephen Zammit. This is a driver who's highly motivated to keep the Super Truck Championship winning streak alive this year. He's done a lot of fitness training in the off-season. He's emerged leaner and fitter than before, as we see the recovering Frank Amoroso back on the tail of Marcus Prilwitz. So those 2 drivers will resume their hostilities from a bit earlier on. And behind that, 2 light trucks having a good contest as well. Craig Yardy just ahead of the Lachlan Fern.
So down through turn 1, back inside with Frank Amoroso, busy at work aboard the Kenworth through the right-hander. And just, he's got the head down and focused on what's going on ahead here right now. Hasn't been the greatest round so far, but still another race to come up in this second round of the series, a reverse grid race based on the results of this one. So might be in the prime positions for that race. There's a bit of a lock-up from the 31 at the top of the circuit there.
Just running a bit wide there, Marcus Prilwitz, as he tried to get the number 31 truck turned in. And yes, the reverse grid race, in fact, the final 2 races of the weekend, both featuring reverse grid formats. So we've already seen plenty of overtaken. overtaking and action in races 1 and 2, but we'll see even more in races 3 and 4.
So Butwell comes through to complete another lap here. Lap time's about 3 or 4 seconds quicker than what we saw in race number 1. And if it's looking at a commentary box window right now, conditions are a bit brighter. And if anything, that rain has stopped now, but certainly threatening in the distance. We ride on board the top of the Max Superliner, heading down to that sweeping left-hander.
And it definitely looks like Stephen Zammett's truck's a bit more suited to the less wet conditions than to the fully wet conditions, because Zammett's actually punched out the fastest lap of the races. Prilwitz has gone again. Drops and he's tagged Amoroso on the way back on as well. So another contretemps between those two trucks.
And is Amoroso wounded this time? That was enough of a hit. And he just locked up going to turn number 1, did Prilwitz, and watch the 2014 champ come through, and that's a decent enough whack on the steering on the left-hand side. Watch, collect it. Oh, it spun the wheel out of his hand as well, flinging him around the seat like a rag doll. Oh, there it is. And goodbye, camera. So that puts him, if anything, out of the race. Meantime, Zammett is closer than ever. Let's jump inside. Let's go for a ride to be a co-driver, heading down the short back straight.
He hasn't given up, has he, Stephen Zammett? And he's closed onto the back of Barry Butwell. As mentioned, fastest lap of the race for Stephen Zammett last time around. The margin less than a second between our two race-leading super trucks at this stage.
So through they come. Has he got time on his side? The final lap is underway, so just under 2 kilometres for the 5-time champion to get past the guy who dominated here in race number 1.
For Barry Butwell now, it's about keeping it mistake-free in this final lap. It's the first time that he's really been under any sort of pressure. We've seen how difficult it can be to overtake in these super trucks, so provided that Butwell can keep his nose clean, it'll be difficult for Zammett to find a way past. Really, in these super trucks up here at turn number 5, as Frank Amoroso looks like has more drums there because he's slowed up. This is one of the passing spots here, turn number 7. The other main passing zone is down into that final complex of corners at turns 8, 9 and 10.
Now is Amoroso limping around to make sure he gets the pole position for the next race?
Correct, because if you get a DNF, then you're still off the back even with the reverse grid format.
I hope he can make it there. That truck was almost at a standstill. Here comes the moment of truth now as Zammett gets a windscreen full of smoke heading down towards the final S's. And Barry Butwell, who won the race by 11 seconds, isn't going to do that in race number 2, but has just one left, one right combination still to go. And the 13 Max Superliner will head towards another checkered flag. It's back-to-back victories for Barry Butwell here today at Winton.
And Butwell getting himself back into the title contest after a tough opening round at Wakefield Park. He needed to salvage as many points out of this weekend as possible. He takes the win by less than a second in the end, ahead of Stephen Zammett. Shannon Smith in for 3rd. Back to Robbie Fern, Marcus Prilwitz, Craig Yardy and Lachlan Fern. And unfortunately, Frank Amoroso not being able to link to the line.
I was minding my own business and Marcus ran out of control, and I thought I was just going to miss him, and so did he actually, but unfortunately we hit the front wheel and it's busted the centre bolt, knocked the axle backwards and punched a hole in the power steering canister, and all the oils ran out of it, so of course I couldn't steer it. Everything's fixable. The boys are onto it now. They'll actually undo the centre bolt, put a new centre bolt in it, take the power steering canister off, and we'll try and weld it up, repair it, fill it full of oil again, and we'll be right.
I missed the gear on turn 1. And I was under brakes, so you miss a gear, the wheels lock up. And once they locked up, I was in no man's land. And Frank was right behind me. So I was out of control. He did really well to only clip the front of the truck, because at one point I looked out the left-hand window and all I could see was his Kenworth badge. So, another couple of inches, he almost avoided me completely. You know, a good bit of driving on Frank's part.
I was lucky enough to get a good start and get away from him and just keep out of trouble. So it was good. Stephen was going hard at it. He was trying, but I've got it over him in a couple of places, so it's worked out well for me. Yeah, it's good. The next race, yeah, it is. It's going to be reverse grid. I would expect some carnage, for sure there will be. Just going to have to tiptoe through it and see how we get through the field.
So he started from the front, and now he has to start from the rear of the field. But bad news here, Lockie, for Frank Amoroso. He's not going to get that front row start that he wanted.
No, and in fact, it doesn't even look like he's out there. So clearly, whatever the dramas were for him in race number 2, they haven't been able to get them rectified. Lachlan Fern and Craig Yardy off the front row then for this reverse grid race. Back to Marcus Prilwitz and Robbie Fern, Shannon Smith, Steve Zammit, and our race 1 and 2 winner Barry Butwell starting from the final position on the grid.
So a couple of smaller trucks for this reverse grid race. We've got another one to wrap up the weekend based on the qualifying order. And there's the two guys that have dominated the race so far as we go green here in race number 3 at Winton. Completely different looking track with the slower trucks out in front. Watch the bigger guys charge their way through the field.
Always plenty of intense battle for track position in the opening laps of a reverse grid race, but it's young Lachlan Fern in the ex-Steve Coulter Isuzu who leads the way over the second of the Isuzus in the hands of Craig Yardy. Marcus Prilwitz will be looking to keep it on the black stuff. The track conditions a lot drier in this race compared to the previous two, and Prilwitz sends it up the inside, makes the move through on Craig Yardy. That is for position 2.
Yeah, great move, wasn't it, down the inside? More passing happening behind. He won't be able to do it there unless he hangs tough. Very rarely do you see that happen at Winton, but he's staying there. He's staying there at the moment. If he pulls this off, this will be past the day. He didn't do it elegantly, but he got it done.
Shannon Smith using a bit of muscle as he works his way up to third. And look at both Butwell and Zaman already starting to charge through, and that was Shannon Smith leaning into the side of Craig Yardy. You were right there, Matt, when you said that it wasn't elegant, but it was effective.
Leaning, and he just pushed him out the way. That was great. Elbows up kind of racing here at Winton today, as here comes Butwell and Zammit. So they've got through a couple of trucks so far, and Zammit looks racier in the third one than what we saw earlier today. Has a bit more of an advantage over Butwell. Trying the outside, won't be able to do it down there into turn 1.
Always difficult to go round the outside in one of those big super trucks, and you could see Butwell just defending, covering off to the inside to try and close out those overtaking opportunities for Zammit, who drops the left wheels off the road out of turn 2. That'll cost him a bit of momentum on the run up to the sweeper. Meanwhile, Lachlan Fern, who's done a pretty good job in the opening stages of this race, finds himself trying to fend off Shannon Smith, but Smith down the inside into turn 5.
Yeah, great pass. And now Butwell pushing Lockie Fern and just lose a bit of the skirt off the back of the Isuzu. Slots in behind him now. And another bump. 2 bumps. Watch Zammit though, he could be the big winner, might try the switchback, but Butwell goes down the inside, gets another position, and Zammit will look to do the same down the short back straight.
This is good experience for Lachlan Fern, one of the newer and younger drivers in the super truck field, just having the experience of racing wheel to wheel, elbows out against the main title protagonists, and he's held himself pretty well as Prilwitz cops a whack from Shannon Smith. Smith will be getting impatient here because you'll see both Butwell and Zammit charging their way to the front. He won't want to be held up for any longer than he needs to be, and now he finds some space on the inside of Prilwitz, or does he? No, Prilwitz hangs tough around the outside. They're still side by side on the exit. Prilwitz squeezing Zammit up against the curb into turn 2. That was aggressive defensive driving for Marcus Prilwitz, and it's still on the run down to the sweeper. Smith looking to go the long way around the outside through the fastest corner on the racetrack, and gets elbowed out into the grass for his troubles.
It had to happen eventually, but for near on a kilometre, they were side by side. Through they come. I said lock break then from the 31, which edged him across towards Smith, and that put him out onto the grass. But look who the big winner was out of all of this. Stephen Zammit gets another position. That last set of turns, they have a bit of Paul Morris, Tony Longhurst about it, didn't it, the way they served each other up? It started back there. Imagine those two in a super truck.
Can you imagine?
Version 2, maybe.
So it's now a 3-way battle for the lead, and Stephen Zammit finds himself in a Max Superliner sandwich. But look at the straight line performance of the number 1 Kenworthy. Blasts past Prilwitz on the run down into turn 8, and Butwell goes with him as well to move up into second spot.
So only took a couple of laps for the two guys who started from the rear of the field to get to the pointy end. Looking inside with Barry Butwell, who's keeping an eye on the mirror, as well as what's ahead. Zammit has got the lead here into turn number 1.
So Butwell definitely had the edge over Zammit in the wet, but now that the track's dried out, it's come back to Stephen Zammit. He finds himself out in the lead, 5-time champion now has some clear track to put his head down and try and establish a margin over the rest of the field.
We started the day in the late 120s and now we're starting to knock on the door of the 117s. You get the feeling with this track drying out, we may have a new lap record in this race.
Which would be extraordinary when you consider how wet it was earlier on, but the pace at the front very, very strong indeed with these super trucks as Marcus Prilwitz finds himself under pressure from Shannon Smith once again, and these two will not be polite to each other after what happened earlier on. Shannon Smith probing for an overtaking opportunity on Prilwitz, who moves right across to the inside of the road to make Smith go the long way. They'll go side by side into the S's, turns 8, 9 and 10. Smith right out sideways in the braking zone and has to go cross-country across the grass to rejoin the circuit. And that was one of the trucks, I think it might have been Lachlan Fern in the background, puffing a lot of smoke as well.
And it didn't look like engine smoke coming out. Look in the background there, that was more than tyre smoke happening down there. So a bit of an oil streak now in the middle of the turn, so we'll keep an eye on that. So go back to Prilwitz and Shannon Smith riding on the bumper. Through the right-hander we go. Enormous speeds, aren't they still? For a truck with a high centre of gravity. Through the left-hand turn and up towards a great passing opportunity at the top of the circuit here.
Considering just how heavy these vehicles are, the amount of corner speed that they're able to carry is extraordinary, as Shannon Smith once again getting a bit loose, this time on the exit of turn 5. And Lachlan Fern looks like he unfortunately has been a retirement from this race. So it's now Craig Yardy in the sole remaining Isuzu light truck and finds himself battling with Robbie Fern.
So around the backside, these tyres getting an absolute punishment around Winton Motor Raceway here today. Track conditions were icy, they were skate-worthy earlier today, but now it's rubbered up nicely as Zammit comes on by to finish another lap. And yes, it's a new lap record around here, 1 minute 16.21. Blistering times here at Winton.
So the combination of the track being fairly clean, as we've got, by the looks of it, a bit of a drama for Barry Butwell. He's playing around with something in the cockpit.
Now, there was some fluid leaking out the back going into turn number 1, and he was looking towards the dash when we jumped inside the number 13. So maybe that's where that slick came from. We're on the final lap here now.
Hopefully that's nothing too serious with the Barry Butwell truck. The last thing that he can afford is another DNF. He needs to keep finishing races to keep himself in the title hunt. Shannon Smith and Marcus Prilwitz still continuing this contest from earlier on. Prilwitz, knowing that it's the last lap, will not make it easy for Shannon Smith to get past by any stretch of the imagination.
As he just parks it in the middle of the turn. He could see Smith had a bit more power coming out of the turns, and now will make him work for it. He snaps sideways. He's going to wash off all the momentum. It's going to be a dive bomb. But you can see Prilwitz can see this coming. Meantime, Stephen Zammit sees the checkered flag coming for the first time here, and the 5-time champ picks up the win in race number 3.
His 5th race victory for season 2018, and Barry Butwell, good to see, getting that truck home in position 2. Just under 5 seconds adrift of Stephen Zammit, and Marcus Prilwitz will just hold out Shannon Smith in this epic battle for position number 3. The top 4 trucks in that race, all underneath the lap record. Zammit, your winner, ahead of Butwell, Prilwitz and Smith. Only half a second separating those two. Robbie Fern ahead of Craig Yardy. Lachlan Fern, our retirement from race number 3.
We had a bit of a drama. We got everything else done. All the damage was fixed, but where we welded the canister up, it had 2 little pinholes, and it had a fair dribble of oil coming out of it, which would have been an absolute disaster if I'd gone out there with it. So unfortunately, we didn't make it, but we will get out for the Super Prix.
Barry done a good job then. He parted the ways and pushed a couple of trucks out the way, so I took very good advantage of it. And just worked on him, and he made a little mistake coming onto the main straight, and I slipped up the inside. So, it was a pretty good race for me, and Marcus and Shannon are up to their old tricks, and it sort of just fell in my lap.
It's good. It was busy out there, a fair bit of traffic, but we got through reasonably clean without too much damage. So luckily the track had dried out, otherwise there would have been a lot more, I'm sure. We had a few problems with split the manifold on about the 3rd lap and lost our boost. That held us back a bit.
It's
been really slippery out there, really wet. You know, that race was a bit drier, so it was a bit more fun.
3 races down here at Winton Motor Raceway. We're off to a break, but come back and join us. The longer 10-lap race to wrap up round 2 here at Winton is up after the break.
My truck's left-hand drive. It's a European-style truck from the old days. We run ABS brake unit here. High-speed automatic transmission being manualised. 2-way radio that plugs into the helmet for talking to the pit crew. Have a speedo set up here. We have it in a bit crooked. It's a 160 sand straight up, so it catches my attention when I'm on the track. There's water pumps for the brakes and the intercoolers. Thermo fans across the engine and the intercooler. This thing's about 1400 horsepower, twin turbocharged. Got a lot of coolers hidden underneath. We've got transmission coolers and fuel return coolers, power steering coolers, so there's a fair few little bits and pieces. We've set it all up aluminium. It seems to hold the temperature better. The suspension is what they call a Watts linkage, or our best interpretation of it on a super truck. Very similar to what they run on a Group A racing car. Got gas over coil shockers or struts to hold it in place. This truck has 6 tyres. We'll vary our pressures depending on the way our trucks handle and depending on the weather. They're a restricted tyre. We can't exceed 160 kilometres an hour with them. This track here, we can't reach that. It's a pretty tight little track. But we get about 140 up the side straight, the back straight over there, and could probably come over the start-finish at about 125, somewhere around there.
Welcome back to Winton Motor Raceway as we get set for the final race of round number 2 of the GT Tyres Australian Super Truck Championship. Lockie Mansell alongside me. Another reverse grid race, but based on the qualifying results from yesterday.
Indeed. So this is the 10-lap Super Pre, full reverse grid from qualifying. Craig Yardie and Robbie Fern back to Shannon Smith, Marcus Prilwitz, Frank Amoroso, Barry Buttwell and Stephen Zammit. Unfortunately, a couple of non-starters, Lachlan Fern and also Anthony Tringali, who has been a non-participant after a blown engine in qualifying.
So the sun is out. Hard to think that this is Winton Motor Raceway that we arrived at for race number 1. Just shows you how changeable, some heavy clouds in the distance, but we're underway in the Super Pre, a 10-lap race around this 2-kilometre circuit. And look at Stephen Zammit just sitting back there, waiting to see what unfolds in front of him. Good to see Frank Amoroso back out in this race.
So whatever the dramas were with the number 96, they've managed to get those rectified. That's the good news. Barry Buttwell up on his inside as they head through the sweeper. Oh, Amoroso off the road through the left-hander. If you get high and wide of the racing line there's just no grip and you find yourself off the circuit very quickly.
A weekend to forget for the 2014 champ inside with the defending series champion Stephen Zammit, who's trying to work a way around here on Marcus Prilwitz. They were 2.5 wide, if it's possible, down there around the Gumtree section, but certainly more stacked up in this final race of the weekend.
And while all of these trucks are battling themselves at the back, as we see Stephen Zammit and Marcus Prilwitz both getting past Buttwell, who looks like he's got a problem, Craig Yardie in the light trucks actually builds a pretty handy margin out in front. And here's a replay of Zammit slipping down the inside of Prilwitz, who was simultaneously getting alongside Barry Buttwell, who has slowed up with some mechanical problems. That is a shame and a bitter blow to his title hopes after such a good weekend for him up to that point.
We saw Smith just have a glance out the window then too to see what went wrong with Barry Buttwell as we go back to the leading group of trucks. Smith, Phantom look down the inside of Fern in the 23 through the right-hander. It's little Isuzu that leads out in front right now.
Robbie Fern doing a good job there. Another relative newcomer to Super Trucks, but had a go in John Falk's Volvo a couple of years ago and loved the experience so much that he decided to buy it for himself. And not only that, but he's convinced his son Lachlan to join in the action in the Isuzu as well.
There's a name, John Falk. He used to race around for a long time in these trucks many years ago.
Former national champion as well. As Robbie Fern has to start defending now because he's got a couple of the faster trucks of Shannon Smith and Stephen Zammit coming up behind. Craig Yardie continues to lead. He'll be driving the wheels off that Isuzu light truck and willing the trucks behind to keep this battle going so that he can make hay and take advantage of the clear track while he has it.
Are you feeling what I'm feeling right now? I think this is going to get crazy later in the race.
It has that feel about it, doesn't it?
Down into the final turn. So the right-left combination, real sharp. When you're down there at ground level, it really just rises up here. These trucks lay down the power nicely. And now, down the inside goes Zammit. He's having to work for this one. It's a short little pit straight here. Won't get 2 for the price of 1, but that's 1 position for him anyway.
It was a well-executed over and under manoeuvre. He saw that Shannon Smith had been balked up a bit by Robbie Fern on the exit of the final corner. He just took the slightly shallower exit and was able to nip on past on the inside. So Stephen Zammit up into position 3. 2 more trucks for him to pick off in the closing laps of the stage. Robbie Fern, next driver on his hit list.
But he has laps on his side. An additional 4 laps to what we saw with the previous 3 races here in this 4-round series, travelling between Winton and Wakefield Park this year. Great to see this category getting some numbers back, because if you grew up in the 90s, you just loved this kind of racing, didn't we?
Nice move, Stephen Zammit around the outside at turn 6 on Robbie Fern, which then translated to the inside for turn 7. Zammit moves up to 2nd position and can now go hunting after our race leader, Craig Yardie.
Great move, set him up nicely. He would look up the mirrors going, where was he? Ah, he's suddenly there. By the time he saw him, the job was done at the right-hander. And textbook move here at Winton Motor Raceway.
As mentioned, you wouldn't want to venture too wide of the racing line, or you'll find that the grip levels deteriorate very quickly. Now it's Shannon Smith who lines up for a shot at Robbie Fern. Is there an overtaking opportunity into turn 1? Not quite. Zammit right on the tail now of the race leader, Craig Yardie.
And should be able to make this pretty easy. Not through there, so another opportunity prior. He won't be able to do it. Or will he do it through here? He's going to try the outside. This could be past the weekend here, Lockie.
We've seen a couple of other drivers try the outside move at turn number 3, the sweeper. None have been able to make it work.
No.
Has Zammit got the job done? He'll now be on the inside for turn number 7. Or it's actually turn number 5 on this short version. This battle's still going on. Yardie not giving up. But Zammit finally, with the extra horsepower of the Kenworth, gets the job done.
Yeah, great racing. High pressure between the two, and they barely touched at all. The Isuzu had to hand the lead over in the end, so Zammit, the 5-time champion, leads us as we approach the half race mark of this Super Prix, the final race here today at Winton Motor Raceway.
Lap time's not as quite as quick as what we saw in race number 3 when they were underneath the lap record, but it'll be interesting to see what sorts of times Stephen Zammit can punch out now that he's got a bit of clear track in the lead of this motor race. Shannon Smith has still not managed to get past Robbie Fern. He's been attacking the back of Fern for a couple of laps, but Fern mounting some pretty solid resistance there. And you get the feeling that Shannon Smith, if he wants to get through, he might have to start getting a bit physical.
Has he got some magnets maybe in the front bumper of this truck? He's glued to, oh, gives him a nudge this time. So that'll unsettle at 23 ahead, but washed off any momentum he had on the exit. Down into the sweeper. Is there another bump coming up here? Not this time.
Smith will be starting to get a bit impatient here. He can see his main title rival, Stephen Zammit, disappearing further and further up the road. He needs to finish as close to Zammit as he can to minimise the points damage, and he starts to get pretty aggressive now on the back of Robbie Fern. Looks to the outside of Fern through turn number 6. If he can hold station on the outside, it'll put him on the inside for the next corner. And finally, Shannon Smith gets the job done as Fern falls back towards Marcus Prilwitz, who now lines up for a shot at the Volvo. Here's a replay of the move. So we saw it done before by Stephen Zammit as well. If you can get alongside on the outside through turn number 6, it is hard work to hang around there, but if you can stay there, it does give you the preferred line for the next right-hander at turn number 7. And Smith found himself in the ideal position to get the move done. This is what it looks like from on board Robbie Fern. He'd done a good job of defending that position up to that point against some of the more powerful trucks. And there was, in fact, a bit of contact there, so Shannon Smith did give him a bit of a nudge up at turn number 5, which just forced him a bit wide. Now Smith needs to try and get himself up into 2nd position if he can. Not sure that he's quite got the pace to be able to chase off after Stephen Zammit, who's now got a clear lead out in front of this race. For Smith, it's all about accumulating points to keep himself in the title hunt. How about Craig Yardy? He is still sitting in second place outright in the light truck, the Isuzu, that doesn't have anywhere near the horsepower or the performance of a lot of the other trucks in the field. Taking advantage of the reverse grid format to start up the pointy end. He has driven superbly. He's not put a wheel wrong all race long, and he still sits in second position. Back to Robbie Fern, who's been relegated back to fourth spot. Stephen Zammit doing it comfortably out in front. The five-time champion on target for the round, winning with the results as they are at the moment. And Smith now challenging on the back of Craig Yardy. Yardy defending. And now that the conditions have dried out, you can see that these trucks are starting to be a bit more adventurous across the curbs, because that is the fastest way around the racetrack in one of these machines. What sort of resistance can Yardy mount to Shannon Smith in the closing laps of this race? He knows that he's got a performance weakness in a straight line, but if he can keep the mid-corner speed up, if he can place his truck in the right position, he can still defend. He can still make it difficult for Shannon Smith to find a way past. He throws it hard into turn number 5. You can see right on the limit of adhesion, the Isuzu sliding around and the tyres squealing in protest. Smith needs to focus on getting a good exit from turn number 7 and try and put the straight line performance advantage of his truck into play if he wants to make the position. Here he comes. Good exit from turn number 7. He will get up alongside Craig Yardy, heading into the final sequence of corners. Look at the margin that Zammit now has over the rest of the field. He's taken advantage of the squabbling behind. He's put his head down, and he has established a comfortable buffer over the rest of the field. He looks so calm and relaxed and composed behind the wheel of his truck, Stephen Zammit. All of that fitness training that he's done in the off-season has paid dividends, because he is looking relaxed and comfortable, barely even raising a sweat. And Shannon Smith has got the job done. He's moved up to second position. He's got ahead of Craig Yardy. So Smith where he needs to be to ensure that he keeps those points ticking over and then he keeps himself in title contention. We will reach the halfway mark of the championship after this round. Back to Robbie Fern in the Volvo. Running now in position number 4, still under a bit of pressure from Marcus Prilwitz. This battle's been going on for a little while now. Prilwitz had a number of spins and excursions in the wet races earlier on. He's looking a bit more competitive now that it's dried out. So Zammit, he's got all of those number 1 stickers for a reason. Not only is he a 5-time Australian Super Truck champion, but he has won a couple of New Zealand titles as well. He really has been the dominant performer in the modern era of Super Truck racing. You go back through the years and you look at drivers like Nicky Tulloch and Rodney Crick, who were successful in the late 90s and early 2000s. Then Bob Middleton was dominant for a while. Lately though, it's been all about Stephen Zammit, as Prilwitz continues to try and find a way past Robbie Fern. And he'll give Fern a nudge on the run into turn number 5. Fern holds his composure and moves it straight to the inside to make sure that Prilwitz can't get past. And Prilwitz was actually a bit slow there on the exit of turn number 5. So if anything, that compromised Prilwitz a bit. He'll have to refocus, resettle, try again, think about another overtaking opportunity instead. Down the back straight, and you can see that if anything, Robbie Fern's actually pulled away a bit from Marcus Prilwitz since that contact between the two of them up through the top end complex at turn number 5. So after the initial jockeying for position that we saw in the earlier stages with the reverse grid format, it's settled down into a bit of a rhythm now. We are on the final lap, and at this point for our race leader Stephen Zammit, it really is all about just managing the margin to the trucks behind. So faced a challenge from Barry Butwell in races 1 and 2, which were held in damp conditions. When the track dried out though, Stephen Zammit was able to take the ascendancy, put his performance advantage into play. Won't get the clean sweep this weekend like he did in the opening round at Wakefield Park, but he will still take the overall victory for the weekend. His second round win for 2018, and he will extend his championship lead with an exemplary performance. Stephen Zammit, race victory number 6 for the season. And he is your race winner for round 2, presented by GT Tyres for the Australian Super Truck Championship. Shannon Smith finishing up second. And what a great performance in the light truck for Craig Yardie to finish up in third position outright. And the battle for fourth, it will go the way of Robbie Fern. He just holds out Marcus Prilwitz on the run to the line.
Stephen Zammit picks up the win in the final race. The Super Prix here today ahead of Shannon Smith, nearly 17 seconds. The margin, Craig Yardie in third. Robert Fern finishes in fourth, ahead of Marcus Prilwitz. And sadly for Amoroso and Barry Butwell, they both failed in this final race here today at Winton Motor Raceway.
At the halfway point of the Australian Super Truck Championship, Stephen Zammit has a 27-point advantage over Shannon Smith. Barry Butwell, despite the DNF in race number 4, still holding third in the points ahead of his teammate Marcus Prilwitz. Lachlan Fern in 5th position ahead of Craig Yardie, Robbie Fern and Frank Amoroso rounding out the top 8.
Bit of a good race there in that last one. We held Barry out. Unfortunately, he had a tail shaft issue, I think, in that last turn on the first lap. So, you know, put him out of contention. But no, we had a really good race. Good, strong truck was fine all the way through. So yeah, we'll bring this home to Jackson. Yeah. Next round, back here again at Winton. Hopefully we get nice sunny weather. We'll be heading into summer. So we're looking forward to it. We've got a bit of work to do to the truck, but we'll be fire and fit. We've got to try and wrap this championship up. So our truck's going strong, and we'll bring it on for the next one. So yeah, very happy with the result.
Oh, well, we wanted first, but never mind. These things happen. Little problems, but next meeting we'll see what happens then.
Great racing here today at Winton Motor Raceway, and guess what? We're back here to do it again in round number 3 in September. Can't wait to go racing around the tight and twisty bull ring. For Lockie Mansell, I'm Matt Nolte. We'll see you soon at Winton Motor Raceway.